Our speaker tonight is David Maginley. David Maginley wrote a book called Beyond Surviving Cancer and Your Spiritual Journey. It was a Nautilus Book Award winner. David is a 4-time cancer survivor. Cancer challenges us to grow in love, deepen our humanity, and truly engage with the life that we're fighting for. Please give a nice, warm welcome to our speaker tonight, David Maginley.
Thank you for having me. So a pleasure to be with you all. I love sharing this story of love and of hope. And Ron, thank you for reaching out to me. This was an unexpected surprise, and you know, thank goodness for the platform that makes it easier for us all to connect. So I want to share with you the story, and this is quite remarkable. As I tell it every time, I am struck by the wonder of it, and yet I want to assure you that this is actually a very common experience. It sounds exceptional, but actual research shows that we are all graced by the presence of Spirit, and if only we would open our eyes and our heart, we would awaken that much more to the reality of God's love from which we emanate. So I've had cancer 4 times. First time I was 17, and then 27, 35, and 38. And it was a strange cancer called panganglioma. And unlike other cancers that spread out and metastasize, right, and compromise the body's systems, mine sits as an encapsulated tumor like a Molotov cocktail. And what triggers the tumor to blow with norepinephrine and dopamine and all these other neurotransmitters is my adrenal gland. So anytime I got excited or anxious or afraid or feeling any intense emotion, it would cause the tumor to blow. And people die from this cancer very quickly. It takes 30 seconds to a minute to die, so there's no protracted suffering. Your tumor explodes with hundreds of times the norepinephrine components of adrenaline called catecholamines. They flood into the body. You have a massive heart attack, and you're gone. I am so lucky to be alive and so grateful. I was 17 years old the first time, and it was actually growing in the dome, the top of my bladder. So the metabolites were flushed out and I didn't have any reaction. But the second one was on my femoral artery. So the metabolites flooded into my body, and the effects were unmistakable. Your fingernails turn blue because the capillaries constrict. Your heart races, you start to sweat, you begin to feel dizzy, your stomach goes into massive cramps. The pain is quite sharp. And if you survive, then the recovery takes a few days. I have passed out more times than I can count. I'm a really tall guy, so when I pass out, I'm 6'8". So the fall is literally stunning, and you get a concussion. When I was 26 years old, or 27, I was a student minister I'm a Lutheran pastor, so I was in a parish, and found that I was getting so anxious whenever I got into the pulpit, not understanding what the tumor was doing. Remember, the first one, I didn't feel the effects of it. And they diagnosed it properly, panganglioma, but they didn't talk about these metabolites that it produced. And I carried on as if I had just been the luckiest guy and had this tumor and I was cancer-free. But the second one, I kept passing out. And even when I got up to preach, public speaking is one of the most anxiety-provoking things you can do. So I began to get the cramps and I'm sweating and I felt like I'm a nervous wreck. Why can't I do what my heart tells me I need to do and share the love of God and the message and support people in their fears and anxieties? How can I do that when I'm swallowed in this? Well, then something remarkable happened. I went to a hospital to do the service in the chapel there, and the tumor kicked in. And before I could get a control of it, right, before I could calm down and breathe into it and fight through it, I blacked out and I crashed to the floor. Now, as a minister, as a reverend, I put a lot of people to sleep on Sunday. It's no good when the minister becomes unconscious. The doctor and nurse who were present, everyone ushered the patients out and their family members out, and there I was, unconscious on the floor. And when they checked my pulse and everything, I was dead. I was gone. In fact, I was out for about 15 minutes. It looked really bad, but not from my perspective, because I was having one of these near-death experiences that you may have heard about. And suddenly I was in a different place. Here's the best I can describe it. And these words are going to be inadequate. They're going to fall far short of the feeling and the experience. But I found myself on a grassy hill. And there was a tree at the top of the hill. I could feel its arms stretched out, achingly drinking in the light. I could feel every blade of grass as it moved. I could feel the light emanating from everything, the colors more vibrant than I can describe, and my heart and soul filled with joy. I was happier than I've ever been. What's interesting is I was whole and complete. Now, the words I use to describe that is I felt suddenly congruent, authentic, integrated, and connected to everything. Here, as you're listening to me and as I'm sharing with you and as we move through our daily lives, we are not fully present. We are fractured. Part of us is thinking about what happened in the past, part of us anticipating what will come in the future, part of you thinking of the words I may just have said. Very rarely are we fully present. And in addition to that, there is a massive amount of material that we have in our subconscious that we're not aware of. We function from our ego state, but a massive dimension of who we are as human beings is in that unconscious or subconscious realm deep within us. Do we truly understand ourselves? Do we truly feel the gift of this moment? Rarely. But there, I was whole and complete, which is the meaning, actually, I believe, of the word salvation, right? That doesn't just mean life after death. It means a state of wholeness and completion. And I was filled with joy and jumping up and down saying, I'm home, I'm home. But really, it wasn't a place, it was a relationship. I was home because I was in full relationship and communion, not only with my surroundings, but with myself and reality. Now, I wasn't alone. There was someone there, a masculine figure. I can't describe to you what he looked like. I didn't really care what he looked like. It's what he felt like. His presence was infused with love and friendship and compassion and beauty and power and authority. Now, some people have said to me, well, David, that sounds like Jesus. Do you think Jesus came to meet you? And I've never presumed it was Jesus. I figure, they're not going to send the big guy. It was a junior apprentice from the warehouse who came to meet me. It doesn't matter, right? No less infused with the character of Christ's love. He simply said in a very casual, deeply loving way, "It's great to see you, David." And I just entered into the conversation. "It's great to be here. I'm so happy I'm home." And then, like a kid at Christmas, I said, "Come on, let's run to the tree." And he said, "You can't go up there. Let's just walk for a while." And we talked. We talked about my life. And what I got from him was comforting and oddly simple. He said, "Things are going very well. You have a lot more work to do. You can't stay here. You'll have to go back, but it's okay. We will be with you, and we'll see you later." I said, and I know my response sounds a bit disrespectful, but I just said, "No way. No way. Come on, let's run to the tree." And I wanted to with everything in me, every fiber of my being, but I could not run. My feet were planted, moving in this gentle pace through the grass. He infused me. I felt this compassion and love pouring into me, and this understanding that you would have for a kid who doesn't want to go to bed at Christmas Eve. And he just said, "It's going to be okay. We, as plural, will be with you, but you have a lot of work to do. You're not ready yet. We'll see you later." And he put his hand on my shoulder, and boom, I was back here. Emerging into this reality, moving from this reality to one so expansive and then having your consciousness compressed back, is existentially disorientating. You feel suddenly the pull of gravity and the sluggishness of thoughts and the poverty of your words. You feel the compression into this stuff. The voices of the nurse and the doctor came to me as if through a murky fog. And I heard them, "David, David, can you hear us? Are you all right?" And I was filled with sadness. I was filled with a grief, a longing, and I felt within my heart this protest. No, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And so suddenly, the whole experience receded. It didn't fade, it receded from my consciousness and descended into my soul to a place I could not access, because words, thoughts, every framework, every frame of reference we have for who and what we are in this reality is inadequate to fully express and hold the experience of that reality. Our brains and minds are just not wired well enough. I apologized. I realized what had happened, and I said, "I'm sorry, I scared everyone. I'm sorry." And they didn't care. They just wanted to make sure I was okay. They had done CPR. They had given me oxygen. Then they checked my blood sugar. They checked my vitals. Everything seemed okay. They wrapped me in a blanket and gave me some orange juice. I sat, huddled, confused, shaking. And then someone took me home, where I went into my apartment and I crawled into my bed and I grieved. I didn't tell anyone, because what do you do? You can't make sense of it. It seems too fantastic. So you slough it off and you say it was just a dream, hallucination, and your body is trying to recover from this massive dose of adrenaline and norepinephrine. You're exhausted for days. Now you think I'd get up in the pulpit the next Sunday and preach and share, but I was too nervous that it would happen again. It took a long time. When I got back to my home city, they found the second tumor, and they explained what these catecholamines, what paranganglioma does to you. And to be honest, I was so relieved because it meant it was the tumor, it wasn't me. It meant I could be a minister as long as I got rid of this tumor, which we did. The operations are dangerous, and if you survive them, you move on to share another day. Now, that was over 30 years ago. Now I think I understand. I wasn't ready. I needed to grow, not only grow in love, but grow into love, for God is love. I needed to grow into the fullness or a fuller state of being a child of God. Now I am a interfaith chaplain with the cancer program and palliative care and intensive care at the hospital. I help people on the edge of immortality. I help them negotiate with mortality, navigate the wisdom of grief, unpack the unfinished love stories, and prepare for the ultimate journey. 1 in 10 people who have a cardiac episode will have an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience. They happen to millions of people every day, but we don't know what to do with them, and we don't share them because people, well, we worry they're going to think we're crazy, and we worry if we are too, but you can't shake it. I remember sitting in my first parish with a couple in their 90s. Over 60 years earlier, he had had a near-death experience. And as he shared it with me, he just broke down and cried. The emotional intensity, the clarity and details of that memory never fade despite the decades. It has its grasp upon you and will not let you go. And he shook his head and wept and said, I miss it so much. And this world, why are we so cruel to each other? Why can't we understand that it's all about love? God is love. And if only we would wake up to that. Now I hear a story every month, sometimes more often from my patients or a family member, and they bring such comfort. It tells me that Jesus is the full manifestation of God's love made human. And he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, may they be one with us just as I am one with you. You and me and you, and us and them. May they be one. For a brief 15 minutes, I was one with him. And now I am bumbling and stumbling my way back home, and I'll get there. We'll all get there. But there's a lot of work to do. We're all walking each other home, loving each other back to the source, right? And that is all fueled by the Spirit, because we cannot do it on our own. We can only do it as a response to the love we've received. You know, we can only love because he first loves us, because he is love and we emanate from that. It's staggering. I'm so grateful for my cancer, that it brought me to that edge. I'm so grateful that I don't have it anymore, and that I am, I think, doing the work they sent me back to do. Not perfect, not enlightened. I'm as human as ever and as foolish and silly in my mind as I ever was, but navigate by love, and you'll always be doing the wisest, most beautiful thing, even if you're bumbling along. It will be more than enough, more than sufficient to spread what he called the kingdom, and it is the realm of love itself. It's helped me realize one final insight I encourage you to discuss. Love, then, if God is love is not an emotion. Love is the highest state of consciousness. And I look out at the pandemic and humanity, and we got a long way to go. But the grace is more than sufficient to bring us all the way home. So it's an interesting story. You probably know someone, given how frequently they occur, that has had one of these experiences. Maybe they hold it quietly in their heart. Maybe they will share. That would be beautiful. So I leave you with that hope and encouragement that indeed everything the gospel proclaims. More than real, more real than this. And for now, we see it as if through a glass darkly, but then we will know it in full, even as we are fully known. Praise be to God.
Amen.
Amen.